Hey everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Risk Related.
Risk Related.
A brand new series from Granite dedicated to helping you navigate the ever-changing world of risk management.
That's right.
We get it.
Yeah.
You're juggling spreadsheets.
Spreadsheets.
Maybe wrestling with some clunky systems and constantly trying to stay ahead of the curve. We're here to make your lives a little bit easier.
That's right. Risk Related is all about delivering practical tips and actionable insights so you can integrate risk management seamlessly into your day-to-day work.
So let's dive right in.
Let's do it.
This deep dive was sparked by a presentation from Granite's experts about their platform upgrade.
Right.
It was packed with interesting stuff.
Yeah.
But what really caught my attention was how they're shifting.
Yeah.
The whole approach to risk management.
It's a pretty significant shift. They're moving away from individual risk management tools and towards a unified platform. What's interesting is that they're achieving this enterprise solution while still keeping the platform user-friendly and focused on the features that matter most.
It's not just about adding a bunch of bells and whistles.
Exactly. It's about creating a connected ecosystem where all the tools work together seamlessly.
I see.
The speaker, a lead from Granite's product team, actually used a workshop analogy to describe it.
Okay.
Instead of having a bunch of separate tools scattered around you, you have a well-organized workshop where everything has its place and is designed to work together.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
So how does this workshop approach actually translate into better risk management?
One of the key innovations is the emphasis on relations.
Okay.
This is where it gets really interesting.
What?
By linking data from different tools, the platform can reveal hidden connections between risks controls and even different departments.
Well, instead of looking at risks in isolation, you can see how they relate to the bigger picture.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And they illustrated this with a really compelling example in the presentation.
Yeah.
They showed how information security risks could be linked to ISO 27001 controls.
Interesting.
You could instantly see which controls mitigated multiple risks, as well as any risks that might be lacking adequate controls.
Wow, that's a powerful insight.
It is.
It could completely change how you prioritize your risk mitigation efforts.
Absolutely. And the beauty of it is that this approach can be applied to any risk domain, environmental, strategic compliance, you name it.
Okay.
It's about understanding the interconnectedness of risk.
This relations concept sounds incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
But wouldn't setting up these connections be a logistical nightmare, especially for large organizations with complex risk profiles?
That's a valid concern, and it's something they addressed head-on in the presentation.
Okay.
They emphasized that the relationship mapping is done on a case-by-case basis in close collaboration with each customer.
I see.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. They want to ensure the insights are relevant and valuable for each organization's unique needs.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's all about customization and tailoring the platform to the specific challenges each organization faces.
Exactly. And to further enhance this process, they've even incorporated artificial intelligence.
Now we're talking AI and risk management.
Right.
That has to be a game changer.
It certainly has the potential to be.
Yeah.
Of course, with any new technology, there are concerns, especially when it comes to data security and privacy.
Sure.
Granite was very transparent about how they're addressing these concerns.
Right.
They leverage the power of Azure OpenAI while prioritizing data security and privacy.
Got it.
And they were very clear that Granite AI does not store any data, so confidentiality is maintained.
That's reassuring to hear.
Yeah.
But I'm curious,
Yeah.
how does this AI actually work in practice?
Sure.
What are some concrete examples of how it could be used?
They showcased two really interesting use cases in the presentation. First, they showed how Granite AI can analyze a list of risks and identify potential blind spots.
Okay.
In the example they gave, the AI actually identified critical infrastructure as a potential risk area that hadn't been fully considered by the human risk assessors.
So it's like having an extra set of eyes helping you think outside the box and consider risks you might have overlooked.
Exactly. The second example demonstrated how the AI can suggest additional tasks or controls for a specific risk.
Okay.
They used the example of the risk competitors lowering prices, and the AI offered several potential mitigation strategies, some of which were quite creative.
That's fascinating. So it's not just identifying risk, it's helping you proactively manage them as well.
Right.
It's like having a risk management sparring partner.
That's a great way to put it. It's about augmenting human expertise, not replacing it.
All this talk about platform upgrades and AI is exciting.
Yeah.
But I think our listeners are eager to hear how these innovations can be applied in their day-to-day work. After all, risk-related is all about giving practical tips for effective risk management.
Right.
So how can risk professionals, regardless of their industry or organization size, start thinking about relations in their own risk management practices?
That's a great question, and it's something we can definitely delve into.
Okay.
It all starts with a shift in mindset.
Right.
Instead of viewing risks as isolated events, start thinking about them as interconnected nodes within a larger network.
Like a spider web, right?
Yeah.
You touch one strand and the whole thing vibrates.
Exactly. The key is to start asking yourself, what other areas of the business could this risk impact?
Okay.
What other risks might be related to this one? Are there any dependencies or cascading effects we need to consider?
Those are great questions, but how do you actually go about answering them?
Yeah,
It can feel overwhelming to even know where to start.
you're right. It can seem daunting,
Yep.
but it doesn't have to be. Start small. Choose a specific risk and try to map out its potential connections to other risks, controls, processes, or even departments within your organization.
Say the mini risk relationship diagram.
Exactly. You can use a whiteboard, sticky notes, a spreadsheet, or even just a piece of paper. The key is to start visualizing those connections.
And as you do that,
Yeah.
what kind of insights might you uncover?
You might discover that a seemingly minor risk in one area could have significant ripple effects across the organization.
Wow.
Or you might find that you have redundant controls in place for some risks while others are woefully underprotected.
That's incredibly valuable information.
It is.
It can help you prioritize your risk mitigation effort and allocate resources more effectively.
Precisely. And this is where technology can play a huge role.
Okay.
Granite's platform, with its emphasis on relations, makes it much easier to visualize these connections and uncover those hidden insights.
It's like having an AI-powered magnifying glass to help you see the finer details of your risk landscape.
I like that analogy.
Thanks.
And remember, even if you don't have access to a sophisticated platform like Granite's, you can still start applying these principles.
Right.
The key is to start thinking about risk in a more interconnected way.
So true.
This leads us to another practical tip for effective risk management: documentation.
Documentation.
Ah.
The bane of every risk manager's existence.
Uh-huh.
But seriously, I know it's important.
Yeah.
What are some tips for making documentation less painful and more useful?
First, let's reframe our thinking about documentation. Instead of viewing it as a chore, think of it as a valuable tool for communication and collaboration. Good documentation helps you articulate your risk management processes, share insights with stakeholders, and demonstrate compliance.
Right.
It's an essential part of building a strong risk culture.
I like that perspective shift.
Yeah?
So how do we actually make documentation more effective? What are some practical tips?
Keep it simple and concise.
Okay.
Avoid jargon and technical terms that your audience might not understand. Use visuals like charts, graphs, and diagrams to make the information easier to digest. And most importantly, focus on the why.
The why.
Explain the rationale behind your risk assessments, mitigation strategies, and control choices.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
So clear, concise visual and focused on the why. I think even I can handle that.
you got it. Now let's move on to another crucial aspect of effective risk management: communication.
Communication, the key to any successful relationship, including the relationship between risk management and the rest of the organization.
Exactly. Effective risk communication is about building trust and transparency.
Okay.
It's about sharing information in a timely and relevant way so stakeholders can make informed decisions.
Sure.
And it's about listening to concerns and feedback so you can continuously improve your risk management practices.
I think one of the biggest challenges with communication is tailoring the message to different audiences. You can't talk to the CEO the same way you talk to the IT department.
You're absolutely right. It's about understanding your audience and their needs.
Yeah.
What information is most relevant to them?
Right.
How do they prefer to receive information?
Yeah.
What level of detail do they need?
Those are great points to consider. So tailored messaging, building trust, and two-way communication, those are the keys to effective risk communication.
Precisely. And it's an ongoing process.
Okay.
You need to continuously evaluate your communication strategies and make adjustments as needed.
Now, before we wrap up this first deep dive, I want to touch on one final but crucial aspect of effective risk management: culture.
Risk culture. The often overlooked but essential ingredient for success.
Exactly. You can have the best tools, processes, and communication strategies in the world, but if you don't have a strong risk culture, it's all for naught.
Couldn't agree more.
Right.
Risk culture is about creating an environment where everyone in the organization understands the importance of risk management
Right.
and feels empowered to identify, assess, and manage risks.
It's not just about having a risk management department.
Right.
It's about embedding risk awareness into the very fabric of the organization.
Exactly. And building a strong risk culture takes time and effort.
Yeah.
It's about leadership commitment, clear communication, ongoing training, and recognition of those who champion risk management practices.
It sounds like a journey, not a destination.
It absolutely is. But it's a journey worth taking.
Sure.
A strong risk culture can lead to better decision-making, improved performance, and a more resilient organization.
And that's something we can all get behind. Well, folks, that wraps up our first deep dive of risk-related.
It does.
We hope you found it informative and insightful.
We did.
And most importantly, we hope you've gained some practical tips that you can apply to your own risk management practices.
Absolutely.
Stay tuned for our next deep dive, where we'll dive deeper into specific risk domains and share even more practical advice for navigating the ever-changing world of risk.
Looking forward to it.
Until then, remember, risk management is everyone's responsibility.
It is.
So be proactive, be informed, and stay ahead of the risk curve.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for listening.